Welcome to the Escarpment. This is my model railway HO build channel and I'm your host Jason. So, where the bloody hell have I been? Looking back at the last video, which was around January, I got back up here. I guess I've been at this for 5.5, 6 years now, and I think I just hit a wall. I just lost certain inspiration, certain motivation, so I decided not to force anything and go and find something else to do. Maybe to find inspiration, but just maybe to sort of have a bit of a break from this layout, because it has been quite a full-on journey to date. Now, I guess during that time, I sort of got onto some other modelling outside of the train scene. I think I did a Space 1999 Eagle build, and that's been going quite well. And it was just something different, and took me back to some childhood memories, as does this layout. I guess it wasn't until March, in the ACT here. Obviously we have our main model railway expo here, and I guess I was fortunate enough to come across a couple of chaps that were talking about the Freemo scene. And I'm not going to get too much into that, because I think one of them's really pissed off at me at the moment, because I sort of was looking at the US standard Freemo stuff and then end up doing some other research, finding out there's been a whole bunch of other standards within Australia. And look, and that's another story in itself. So anyway, I decided to get on to the Australian Model Railway Association standards for the Freemo. Between both of these standards, I mean, it would have been nice if I could find something in the middle. There was some stuff I liked from one, some stuff I liked the other, but not fully liking everything that was sort of, I guess, dictated as to a standard. Now, I get the ends needing to have a certain standard and, not too much give and take, but I think when you start dictating scenery and a bunch of other stuff, to me it hinders creativity with people. And also I think with some of these standards, they're geared more towards clubs, meaning that I think for the average young person wanting to get into Freemo, it's probably quite expensive given some of the standards and some of the expectations that they want you to follow in building these modules. I decided, because I've sort of been having some thoughts on wanting to do a little bit more than just build this static escarpment layout at my own home. I did have thoughts about wanting to get out there on the circuit, meeting some people, talking with people, that type of stuff. So I thought the Freemo might be a good way to do that, whether or not there's others that take it up, or it's just I just go it alone. It doesn't really bother me, but we'll see how that heads, because with everything and the headbutting with standards and Australia, especially in Australia here, we just, we don't have a population to really screw around, but yet everyone wants to put forward a standard. And anyway, I'm going to leave that alone for a moment, because there's certain aspects of that just didn't gel with me. And especially, recently I got up to the Rose Hill Expo and I was a little bit disappointed. Now, I'm not going to talk about which stand or whatever, but, I was up there with my granddaughter and, someone gave her a flyer, and then I thought, oh, okay, cool. Conversation breaker. I started having a chat, and this person just walked off and started to talk with someone that he knew. And I thought, okay, you're trying to do some PR here. You really lost me. I got the flyer, chucked in the bin, and I kept walking. So there is that aspect of the hobby. I think we really need to have a look at who we put up front with the PR. And I think it'd be a great way to get some young blood into, but I think we've just got the wrong people at the front there. But anyway, something to ponder, something to think about. And I thought to myself, well, if I got onto the scene, not that I'm flogging off the Freemo or whatever standard I'm using, but it's just a way maybe to talk with some of the younger folks and give them some of my experiences. You know, how did we start with this hobby? You know, there's certain aspects that is and are quite expensive, but you know, there's other ways and things to do to lower those costs. But I think unfortunately we get, especially in Australia here, we get so tied up into how many rivets each of those things have got. And I don't mean to call out the rivet counters. You guys have a place, but I think we just need to take our foot off the accelerator, I guess, in that area, especially when we're trying to bring some new blood on board. But anyway, not that I rant or anything like that, but it's just, there are some of my opinions on what I sort of saw, what I've seen, what I experienced. Anyway, I think that's probably something for me to have a think about moving forward. I'm not here pointing the finger at anyone, but I think there really needs to be some really decent PR, but also not just PR, but support. And it may not be a club. Not everyone wants to join a club. You know, obviously clubs, you know, they have their pros, they have their cons. Just some thoughts from me. So what have I been doing? So over the last month or so, I've started with my Freemo journey. I've got 3 sections to make up my module. Each section is 500 millimeters wide by 1200 millimeters long. And what I decided to do as far as the scene goes is I decided I'm going to take my coal loader, my New South Wales coal loader, and it was basically designed and modelled on New South Wales. These ones can be found throughout New South Wales, and I thought I'd do a simple coal scene with a single main line running through for anything that hooks up to each of my ends, but in the middle it'll be a coal loader branch line going off, split into 2 that runs under the coal loader. So that's basically where I've sort of headed with that. I'll take you over shortly and just show you the modules. I've got all the gear basically to go. I'm in the middle of patching and painting the main frames. I think at the moment I'll just take you around and sort of just show you some bits and pieces. So thought I might show you just the little bits and pieces that I have been starting on the layout with the scenic, or the terraforming I should say. I started over here doing some paper mache, but not the usual paper mache, what is it, flour and water, whatever you mix up. I actually just used white glue and then just painted the newspaper, but then sort of came back and had a look at the plaster cloth, and I might just do a section of that and then decide what will be the main makeup, whether I go to this method or use the plaster cloth. You can see there at the back, I started doing some of the foam cutting, the terraforming. That'll be all bushland at the back there. That looks quite bright, doesn't it? And you can see here I've started doing further paper mache type stuff with the newspaper, which I just used some fly screen underneath. A couple of boards are ready to go for the Freemo frames, and I've just got to cut this one out here. I've got a bunch of stuff ready to go for the Freemo modules. I've got the T-Lig point motors. Obviously I've got the flex track down there. I've got the cabling for the main track bus. I've got my connectors and a few other bits and pieces. I ended up getting myself a NCE power cab for this unit. What I plan to do is I will have, I guess, a command station tied into this Freemo, but it'll be able to be turned on and off depending on my circumstances. So for instance, if I'm just on my own, or maybe a couple of others are hooked up, I can turn mine on and power the whole lot. Or if I'm hooked up into a bigger system and someone else is using wireless, or, you know, there's a better system in place there, then I can turn my command controller off. I did pick it up secondhand, and it was sitting on the old firmware, so I did actually upgrade that to the latest. I had to take it apart and put in the new chip, but that was fairly straightforward. So I ended up getting, because I got the power cab and I do like to be wireless, I ended up getting the DCC Concepts Aegis system. And what that does is allows you to plug in the power cab, but in a way where it's wireless. And I may have a video later on that, at least just some basics on how I'm using it. So before I show you the modules or the sections of the Freemo module, just take you across to the workbench. There's a few things on here that I'm working through. Got my ballast ready to go. Those two colors will be mixed together. Down here I've got both the Australian Model Railway Association Freemo standard, but I also got a copy of the American standard here that Dale converted to metric. What I plan, because there is a couple up here, well, whether or not they invite me or whether they'll continue with it, there is a couple up here at the ACT that use the American standard. So what I'm thinking of doing is having integrated end modules that can be attached to the Australian or the AMRA standard, but then also can be then connected to the other one. So I guess these, interlocking type little modules that I need to still design. Got my electronics also here. So this is the Aegis system. I've got the section cut out in the frame. It'll be hooked in. I've also got the DCC concept meter, which does the DCC amps and volt readings. I've got the NCE 3 circuit breakers there because each of the modules will have a set of points and point motors. It's just, I guess, a bit of insurance, I guess, with short circuits, that type of thing, of the AMRA standards. So basically, that's where it gets a little bit expensive, but I do get the reason behind it, but it's just, for the younger generation coming in, it's probably harder to get into that standard. I've got some of these power outlets which will be put in place with each of the sections of my module, and that will be just the track bus in and out, and then I'll be able to tie some other power lines through the circuit breaker and then onto the track feeds, etc, etc. Just mucking around, double pole, double throw, double pole, whichever way it goes. Oh my God. And I've just been mucking around with the LED and the resistor in place, because basically I need to make sure I can switch each of the point motors on both sides. And there's my diagram I'll be using. What else do we have here? Oh, just getting organized with some of the screws. That'll be just for the tops of the Freemo modules, I should say sections. These are what I'll be tying the legs to the modules, because what I've done with these modules or the sections of the Freemo is I've got inbuilt folding legs. When transporting it, I need to make sure nothing moves, the legs don't fly out and hit me in the head or whatever. And just here I've got my switches, I've got my switch plates that help me turn these into reversers, and LEDs and resistors, etc, etc. And you can see there, that's my Eagle from Space 1999. Just got a couple of little touch-ups to do. I actually ended up 3D printing my leg pods out. The reason being, I made a pretty big boo-boo when I was putting it together. So instead of trying to use the putty and trying to get it straight again, because I had to then use the cutter to take it apart because I had already glued it together. So I decided, bugger it, I just got on, designed it, and then 3D printed it out. Exact replicas of what the kit was. So I think the next thing is down on the floor here, you can see each of the sections that make up the Freemo module. They're actually upside down at the moment. That one at the back there has had the first coat put on. They're all being painted black. And then you can see here, there's touch-ups, further touch-ups to do, because once you get the undercoat on there, you can see some blemishes. So I'm just making sure none of them are in your face type thing, but that's all coming together quite nicely. I use, as I mentioned earlier, use these to fasten the legs down on the supporting post. And I use these M6, if I can show you right there, sort of screw in there through the legs and it holds them down tight. So here are the folding brackets that I've got. I will end up putting, because they're separate and it's really hard to do both at the same time, so what I'll do is I'll take these covers off on both and then get a metal bar and fasten it to it. So I just need to pull one lever and the legs will then fold back down and then I can do them up. And it's the same on this side. Oh, maybe I need to pull that out a bit. Same on that side. So you can see there, those are the legs. I've got these, I bought these height adjustment legs or feet to put on it. It's quite good. It's sort of, I've got all this play here. To fasten them together, I use an L-shaped bracket here just for better strength. Now, there might be a bit of wobble from a single section point of view, but what I'll do is once I get them all painted and ready to take it to the next step, I'll put them all together, then fasten them. Then I'm going to need to do over here, I'll be using these dowels from DCC Concepts to help line up each of these ends down here. That's what I have to date. And I've tied the legs together, as I said, with the brackets, both ends, and I need to make sure they were all installed and did not interfere with each other when folding down. So you can see there, it's facing outwards. This one, these brackets are facing inwards. So this one needs to be put down first. So the inwards is facing in, and then this end will come down and not be interfered with this one, and they're all flush. So you can see here, if you look at this next one, they fold down on each other and they're all flush. So that's that one. As I said, this one's got the first coat on. You can see there's some bits and pieces that I haven't done yet. I still need to turn it over and do a coat on the other side, as well as fixing up these middle sections with the coats. I just couldn't get to it at that time because I did these ends and I need to make sure they're completely dry before I fold them up and get access to painting other little sections underneath there. But it's coming along very nicely. And you can see there down here, so that'll be the Aegis system will be screwed into that hole there, the DCC meter. I'll also have some other connectors. It's because I'm doing both or at least being able to operate this under the AMRA Freemo standards and the US standards. I've sort of got the best of both worlds. Just thought to myself, like, I don't know, I got a funny feeling. It's been ages and Freemo hasn't really taken off in Australia, but I just feel that maybe they needed a different approach. But anyway, watch that space. Some thoughts in that area moving forward, but hopefully it just doesn't turn into, you know, a bit of a shelfware type layout. Who knows, you know, if it does, then, you know, I'll put it up for sale and someone else can get some enjoyment of it and maybe add a couple more modules to each of the ends to extend the switching type layout. But there you go. So that's where I am with these. It has served as a bit of inspiration. I just needed something different with this hobby, and I guess this gives me other opportunities to expand outside the shed and to do other things. So it gives me that option too. And you've got to remember that this layout, or the escarpment layout of mine, is basically, look, this is well, it's a hobby, but it was a project that's really going to take me into my retirement age. Now, for those who are sort of wondering how far am I away from retirement, well, I'd like to say 5 years, but I think it's probably going to be 7. But yeah, so at least, got 5 to 7 years still left. And I'm going to have so much more time on my hands. So this is going to serve me quite well. So I'm not real fussed that I've hit a bit of a roadblock or a motivation type issue. There's plenty of time. And yeah, there you go. So we might just go back to the seat. So that just sort of takes you through where I'm up to at the moment on the project with the Freemo modules, or the sections that'll make up the complete module. I think for me, over the next couple of months, I'm going to continue concentrating on that. I'm sort of with the main layout, I'm just getting all my thoughts in place, and I guess as we go forward and start to do the scenic stuff of the Freemo, it'll probably just help the creative juices flow a little bit more with this main layout of mine, the static one here at home. So as I said, the main goal is to probably get out there to a couple of expos, sort of bring along my modules, have a bit of a chat with anyone that wants to have a chat, and it doesn't matter whether I know you or don't know you, I will still have a chat with you if you sort of approach me with some questions, or just approach me and maybe having a bit of a look. I'll do my best to engage you in some chatter. With that said, also, I've sort of thinking, if I get on the scene with this, I'll probably have some of the 3D kits of the coal loader with me, just for anyone that might want to purchase on the day. There are some of the thoughts anyway that's sort of going around in my head. So what's that space? I do need to work out, and look, for those that are actually on the scene, look, any advice, especially about how to sort of get involved, or I don't know whether or not you just reach out to those organising, or whether it's by invitation, I'm not quite sure. So for anyone with that sort of experience, please get in contact, put a message below, let me know some of the steps, maybe the pitfalls, the pros and cons, whatever you want to share with me, that would be absolutely amazing. So thanks for that. So with that said, I think I might leave it there. The next video, I will try, and again, the video thing was another motivational thing that I don't know, I just had no juice left in me. It's just, yeah. But anyway, look, I think with this, I will show you a few things, especially when I get to the track laying, the wiring, and of course the scenery, etc. I will make some separate videos with that, and try not to get too far into the project without doing a video, because it probably would have been nice, and I'm sure some of you would have appreciated to see me how I put some of these frames together. But there's a million ways to put these frames together. That's just my way. That said, I'm going to leave it there because I feel like I'm rambling again. So until next time, be kind to each other. Bye for now.